Is on the hunt for the missing millions.
We'll be revealing some of the fascinating stories that surround these forgotten fortunes.
Melanie Sykes and Paul Heine are the super sleuths hunting down the missing cash. Missing Millions, Tuesday at 8, ITV1 and ITV1 HD.
A penalty success rate of 100% is nothing to be sniffed at.
Well, I'll take 15 points from 18 to 6 from 6 every time.
Smarter data for a smarter planet.
Welcome back, or good morning if you've just joined us already. You've missed an interesting second half, certainly. Australia beating Italy 32-6. Great 4 tries there. You can see them later on in our highlights programme, of course. Very soon, we're going to head to the North Island, to New Plymouth for Ireland against the USA. And we finished Sunday's games with a very difficult opening game for Wales as they take on the world champions, South Africa, live here at 9:30. Well, it was, of course, England who the Boks beat in the final in 2007. Phil Vickery, who captained the team that day, is behind the mic for us this time out. So let's get his thoughts on what England have done and what Wales might do. He's with Gabriel. Gentlemen, all yours.
Thank you very much, Craig. Phil, you've had, 24 hours to digest England's performance in Dunedin. Are you concerned, like many, or content?
Well, it's difficult. There's no doubting that it was a disappointing performance, but I think in the cold light of day, England have played a very difficult Argentinian team, first up in the World Cup. They've come out of it with something to have a look at. A lot of negatives, but the most important thing for me is they've got to win, and they can move on from that.
They found a way to win. If there is one thing that Martin Johnson found out last night about his team selection, about the way forward in this competition, what might it be?
Well, I think it will be the inclusion of Ben Youngs at the start of the game. I thought he was fantastic when he came on. Everything which, the supporters and everyone watching wanted to see happen to England. But I think you can look back and say, I think that England team of 12 months ago would have lost that game. But they stuck at it, they kept going, they didn't lose faith, and they beat a very, very difficult Argentinian team.
We'll turn the attention to Wales versus South Africa here. The conditions are, typically Wellington, I suppose you'd say. Just started raining. It's going to carry on, we believe, throughout the whole of the evening. Warren Gatland's been so positive in his build-up over the last few weeks. They had that very good performance against England when they learnt how to win, grind out a result. He's optimistic. A lot of Welsh fans we're speaking to are very optimistic about upsetting the world champions. Do you share that optimism?
Well, I'd love to see Wales do well.
Do you share that optimism tonight?
Well, yes, it's difficult. Warren Gatland has to be positive because they're in a very difficult pool. A lot of their preparation coming into the World Cup has been about conditioning and fitness because of the physical size of the teams that they're playing against, and tonight it will not get any more difficult than playing against a Springbok team with 815 caps between them, just beating the All Blacks in the Tri-Nations, and I think a team which, as we all know, can perform on the world stage.
What about these conditions? Does Warren Gatland look at these conditions and think, oh dear, that might have ruined our chance tonight of an upset?
Well, I don't think it's ruined their chances.
It's not helped?
No, I don't think it's going to help. I think Wales have to match the South Africans physically, which I think they will do. But ultimately, they've got to play some rugby. They've got to tire the South African team out. And they'll want James Hook to have the ball. Looking around here tonight, we're stood here, we haven't been here long and we're soaking wet. It's going to be difficult to play any kind of sustained attacking rugby, I think, this evening.
Just a final word. I believe that you were with the Welsh camp earlier on in the week, watching a bit of training. Warren Gatland came over to you and he said, Phil, I want you to have a word with my team to inspire them. And you did, correct?
I did. They were very kind.
What did you say?
The feeling around the Welsh camp, I have to say, is fantastic. It was brilliant to be there, and they were very kind to let me watch the whole session, which was great for me because we only ever get to watch warm-ups. And Warren said, well, I'll do you a deal. You come and we'll let you stay and watch the team, but if you come and speak to the boys. So
what did you say?
I can't say what I said, but it was a privilege to be there. I was impressed, very, very impressed with the Welsh team. They looked very good.
Okay, thanks, Phil. We'll see how the Welsh get on tonight. Just one win, though, in 25 attempts over the last century against South Africa. That's the size of their task tonight in Wellington.
An English captain inspiring a Welsh team, that is certainly a first. He's right about one thing, they do look good. They look like a good team, this Welsh side, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They've had a few injury problems, front row and a few other problems coming into the tournament, but they've, they would have taken confidence from the victory against England. They beat Argentina and they beat them a lot more comfortably than England did. And they're settled. I think, big plus points there. Captain Warburton's really, shown some form. So I think that it's a good time to play South Africa. A lot of those South African players haven't been playing regularly through the Tri-Nations, and you get the feeling that if they can catch them, the first game is as good as any game to play against them. And of course, if they win, then it's a fantastic Welsh victory. If they lose, then it's down to an Englishman. You
hit on something there, though, that Wales seems settled. And Gervin, we'll be talking about Ireland very soon, of course, but they seem unsettled. How important is it to be very settled going into this and confident about your team and the people around you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think the Welsh team look comfortable. They look comfortable in the game plan, the style of play they want to play, and they've had some success in the warm-up games. Yeah, so their side, I think they, as Lawrence said, I think they're really going to attack this South African team. I think it's a chance for them to really show how good they are. It's important, your first up game. We've seen today in some of the bigger nations, it's important to get off to a good start, get a bit of confidence and build momentum into the tournament. I think that's what it's about, building momentum.
And also I think it's important, whatever the result, that Wales play, because the game is not just about the group is not just about South Africa, it's about the rest of the group as well. And whatever happens, if they come out of this game with a performance that they can be proud of, then they'll be able to take that into some of the other tough games and come out the other side.
And many people, Michael, I think really felt the way Wales could play and play a lot of ball would to have James Hook at 10. He's starting 15. Raised a few eyebrows, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's a wonderful player, James Hook, and I think it's about trying to get as many good players onto the pitch as possible, and Gatland's decided that the way to do that is put Priestland at 10 and Hook at 15. Now, Priestland's a talented player and he does like playing with the ball and he can get his back line going. And with Jamie Robertson there, who played well against the South Africans for the Lions, I think Hook at fullback, yeah, it's a surprise. And Lee Burns, had his problems with injuries and things like that. Hook can probably create a lot of things from fullback, but I also expect him to be first receiver quite a little bit also, and Priestland, he's sharing that role.
OK, we'll see how Wales get on very soon. That game live here on ITV at 9:30. But let's talk Ireland. They've had a miserable build-up, but will they have something to smile about in their opening game against the USA? Find out after this short break. Welcome back. Part 2 of our North Island tour coming up as we travel to the Stadium Taranaki in New Plymouth. And that's where Ireland are desperate to find some form. They take on the USA in their opening Pool C game. Well, they were poor in their warm-up games, but nowhere close to the lows of 2007 when they didn't even make it out of the pooled stages. When it comes to the World Cup, the golden era of Irish rugby has looked, well, pretty rusty.
This time for Ireland, they need to get it right.
Ireland have won, but you can't say they won handsomely.
And instead of getting better, Ireland seem to be getting worse. Oh! Interception! And this could be the ultimate embarrassment. And Georgia lead Ireland. Dempsey, who escapes and scores for Ireland, to relief right around this stadium. But Ireland were shambolic tonight.
It really is game over. Now it is life on the edge. And a score which is a stake in the heart of Irish ambition. Pool D for Ireland did stand for the death of a World Cup dream.
Sorry to do that to you, Gervin, on your debut here on ITV. But just to further the pain, how miserable was it back in 2007?
It was pretty tough, yeah. We got off to a pretty poor start. against Namibia, and then we went into that Georgia game, and we were very lucky. We got out by the skin of our teeth, just to manage to get through, and the confidence was low in the camp. And I think it's sort of sprung from our warm-up games. We didn't have any momentum going into it, and we found it harder. We were using the pool games to build momentum for the rest of the tournament. It just didn't happen for us.
So after poor warm-up games, you really needed a big opening win to boost the confidence, which brings us into this World Cup. They need a big performance today, don't they?
Definitely. But I think the difference with 4 years ago, these guys are conditioned and they're rugby hardened. Obviously, they didn't get the performances or the victories that they needed in the warm-up games. But going into the game, I think they're going to be a lot more battle hardened, and they're going to be ready for it. It's just a case of getting some confidence. They need a performance against USA to go into the Australia game next week.
Not just for Ireland fans, Lawrence, but for rugby fans in general. It's been such a great era for Irish rugby. So many great players, countless triple crowns, a Grand Slam. But when it comes to the World Cup, what goes wrong? What happens?
Well, they've not pulled it together. They've underperformed. And you talk about the great players and the great eras of Irish rugby. No one epitomises that more than Brian O'Driscoll. And he's back today for Ireland, and I think that is crucial because he's been out of the warm-up games, and they've missed him. They've missed his leadership, his influence, his ability just to do something and turn a game. But also, we just saw a shot of Paul O'Connell. Paul O'Connell's back in form and playing well, but you need Brian O'Driscoll as well, and I think he's going to be absolutely crucial to turning around Ireland's fortunes.
I think so too. When his last England played Ireland and beat them at Aviva there, that their first try from Tuolangi, Keith Earls playing 13, Tuolangi ran straight round him. Now if O'Driscoll was playing there, probably that doesn't happen, and it's a different game altogether, and that was the difference in that game. So O'Driscoll, a huge player on the pitch, but also from a leadership point of view and experience and all that sort of thing. And I'm sure, this being his last World Cup, would want to make it count.
He's such an influential player, so many big tries and big moments for Ireland. He's an incredible man really out there, isn't he?
Massively, yeah. I think you just have to look back to the Grand Slam win and all the crucial tries that he scored in that game. I think he was the leader. He seems to pop up at the right time and score tries at key moments in big games. And his leadership is phenomenal. Like he doesn't do a huge amount of shouting, roaring, talking, but he will say the right thing at the right time.
Tough guy as well. I mean, not afraid if the forwards aren't doing the job to really lead by example. I mean, the other player Ireland have missed, of course, is Sean O'Brien. He's not back for today's game, but the outstanding forward in the Northern Hemisphere, I think, over the last 12 months. And if Ireland are to turn around their World Cup, then he's going to be crucial too.
Well, talking of back rows, I think it's time we got the opinion of a Munster man. Alan Quinlan was one of Ireland's most ferocious back rowers. Now retired, he speaks as he played with his heart on his sleeve, which makes him such a welcome addition to our commentary team. He is with Simon Ward in New Plymouth. Gentlemen.
Well, welcome to wet and windy New Plymouth. Thankfully, the wet part has died off in the last half an hour. Alan, plenty of this Irish squad went through the trials and tribulations of 2007. Does that help or hinder in 2011?
Well, it's a bit of both, I think. Obviously, in 2007, there was a lot of expectation, a lot of confidence going to the World Cup, and Ireland didn't play well. They didn't perform there. It was seen as a disaster back home. So I suppose there's, it's a bit of both. They'll certainly have it in their minds of what happened in 2007, but also there's now pressure on them to perform here at this World Cup.
Of course, a new half-back partnership, important for Murray and Sexton to gel quickly.
Absolutely. Conor Murray had a great season last year. He came into the Munster side he's played wonderfully and put himself in the shop window, I think. Obviously, Tomás O'Leary lost out, but he's a very exciting player, and himself and Sexton are probably the key players today for Ireland.
A familiar face on the other side of the benches, a man that you know well.
Yeah, Eddie O'Sullivan, of course. Eddie was coach of Ireland for a long time. He knows the Irish players inside out, and certainly he'll have his homework done on the Irish team today, and be getting his troops fired up, and hopefully he'll be hoping they can get stuck into Ireland and get a good performance.
The weather obviously has been an issue in the last 24 hours. Do you think it's going to help Ireland or help the USA?
Well, I think Ireland would prefer to have a dry pitch. I think they've underperformed in the warm-up games, and I think they're looking to get a bit of confidence back into the side. They have a lot of dangerous backs, proven backs. They haven't played well, so I think they would prefer a dry night here in Taranaki. whereas the USA maybe prefer the weather conditions to keep the scoreline down a little bit, or, you know, as people predict that, you know, I think Ireland should win the game comfortably, but you'd never know, because I suppose we've seen from the first couple of games some of the minnows have caused a couple of upsets.
Well, we shall wait and see with interest whether Ireland can get this World Cup campaign off to a flying start.
He certainly will. Alan Quinlan making his ITV debut there. Gervin, it's time for you to make your touchscreen debut with Lawrence.
Looking forward to it.
Be good to him, Lawrence. Talk us through the team.